Oh, there it is. Okay, all right. We'll call the meeting to order. Now I lost my thing here. All right. District's promise statement. We promise to provide a supportive environment where unique learning experiences empower all for their chosen life adventure. Are there any additional items for the agenda? If not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion.
That's Scott. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Kendra? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Recognition of visitors and open forum. Looks like we got a full house today. Welcome, everyone. Reports and presentations. Student representatives report. Start with Aaron or Danny, and either one of you want to go first?
Well, the students, well, it was last week, wasn't it? Last week, I think. I can't remember time. 2 weeks? 2 weeks ago. Whoa, okay. We had a week off from school for like the kids who are struggling to catch up. And I know a lot of kids really appreciated that and liked that. Prom and graduation is something that's coming up. And it's not figured out yet, but that's up to basically the state and what the school figures out. But hopefully that can all happen. We're all looking forward to that.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for them? Well, thank you. I do hope that you guys are able to have prom and good graduation again this year. I thank Grant and others for a wonderful graduation ceremony last year. So if that's what it needs to be, I think you guys will be happy with that too. It's went over really well. All right, 6B, Superintendent Report.
I've got two quick things. Just again, a learning model update that we have pre-K through grade 7 in person every day. And 8th through 12th grade is still in hybrid. You see some area schools are sort of all over the place with some going back all in person, some still in the hybrid, some 4 days a week. And we're continuing to monitor it. Of course, we want students back as quickly as possible every day. I think what we're trying to balance is we're having that structure that we've created that have allowed us to be in person at the elementary level and through 7th grade a lot. That ultimately goes away when you bring everybody back with the distancing and you got labs. And so we're trying to figure that out. And I know the high school is bringing back more students pretty much, I don't know if it's daily, but for sure every week. Bring back more students who need to be here every day that are struggling. So we're trying to have the best of both worlds of providing the structure and getting more kids in our building. But you know, hopefully there's a time in the near future that we can have every high school kid back every day. And we're continuing to work with public health and have weekly meetings with them. The second thing, again, February 15th is President's Day. We do have a staff workshop day. The majority of that day, again, is just going to be dedicated to staff planning, collaborating, because we know that their schedules are very chaotic with prep times that necessarily don't align this year like they did last year with additional things that need to be done in room situations. But the one thing that we do have planned that day is that we are going to do a 45-minute leadership and implicit bias training that's going to be led by me. So it'll be it's sort of a next step that what we started last year with some cultural competency training and understanding our own bias as we enter the classroom and school and working with kids. Any questions on either one of those?
Nope. We're good. Thank you. Move on to 6C, budget information, enrollment update. Anything you want to speak to that? It was on the link. Anybody have any questions on that? Looks like we're going up, so that's a good sign. right, well, then we'll move on to 7, approval of the consent agenda. As always, you can pull anything out that you wish. Anybody have any clarifying questions before we make a motion? If not, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
That's Tim Johnson. Do we have a second?
A second.
That's Tim Burke. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. 8, old business, safe routes to schools update.
Just an update for board members in our community. Again, back in 2018, before my time, the school district and city received a grant, $445,000 for safe routes to schools and sidewalks. So I talked with Clinton this past week. That's scheduled to take place, that infrastructure project, in the summer of 2022. So they'll be going out for bids here in October, November. There's some sidewalks that got done, like our project out front in the south side of the building, I guess, was on their list to get done, but we did it when we did the remodel, as well as they had a couple sidewalks. So they're trying to figure out if they can replace some of their other sidewalks and how that looks. So just an FYI, there's some local funds that go along with the grant around $89,000 that we're still trying to work out how that looks and who's paying for that. And more details to come, but just wanted to give you an update.
So the bidding and stuff, is that all the city takes care of
The
all
city,
that?
yep,
We
they're
don't
working
have
with
any
their own
involvement
engineers.
in
Yep.
that? Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions from anybody?
I do.
Mhm.
Somewhat related, but just sidewalks in general. Do we ever contact the city about, that sidewalks aren't clean during the winter? Just seeing a lot of kids walk through, on Main Street, there's a lot of sidewalks that aren't clear. It just looks like sometimes going onto the road and everything.
Are you talking sidewalks on our property or sidewalks on other people's property?
Other people's.
Yeah. To my knowledge, we haven't, but I'm sure the city would be responsive if they get notified.
Yeah, I actually did that last year, because, yeah, my kids were walking from daycare to here, and we're walking on the street, because sidewalks weren't plowed and all that stuff. And obviously, cars don't stop on a dime on an icy road,
Right.
and kids shouldn't be running to school. So, they actually, I don't know, I see they send out Facebook notices and all that stuff too, about clearing your sidewalk. They got 24 hours after a snowfall. And they've been actually going out finding people too, so.
Yeah, I suppose if we hear of something or somebody, then I suppose we could contact the city, but it'd be hard to have staff go.
No, I'm just
around
saying
and
if like people see it or teachers see it or something or hear from it from students.
Yeah, yeah, I guess everybody in the community, if they could speak up and say something, and, yeah, if it is something that, and, like Scott said, he called already and contacted them, so. All right, any other questions? Okay, we'll go to number 9, new business, a strategic plan update.
Great. Before other administrators come up and share some of the updates with you, I just want to remind you of a couple things. Again, October, we approved our new strategic plan. We'll give updates twice a year, and I thought this was a good time. I try not to have our other administrators come because they have long enough days the way it is. So, but this is one time that I thought would be appropriate for them to come and share. You've heard a lot of this before, so they're not going to go through every single bullet on every slide. And I'm actually going to take a step back, and so then they can come forward. So feel free to ask them questions or ask more details, but they're not going to go through every single point on the slide. And we do have, again, 15 minutes or so planned for this, and if it needs to go a little longer, so be it, but that's sort of the time frame that we're looking at. So without further ado, I think we are going to step back, and they're going to come forward and go.
Okay.
All right, I think I probably start, so thank you for having us tonight to talk through some of these points in our strategic plan. On the first slide, I want to highlight our Catalyst training that we took some of our teachers through, our non-tenured and new teachers at the beginning of the year. We had a group come in called the Catalyst Approach, and this is essentially training PD on improving classroom management and mainly through nonverbal strategies. And so it was a lot of strategies to help our newer teachers learn some of those classroom management skills, because that's not training that's always there and available for teachers. It tends to focus more on instructional strategies and that sort of thing, so we wanted to give that to our teachers. In the high school, I've had one of my teachers share with our whole staff how that's going in their classroom during a faculty meeting. And I've got a couple other teachers that are actually implementing these strategies into their SMART goals for the year. So they know that their professional growth is tied to these strategies that they learned at this Catalyst training, and we're seeing some differences in the classrooms as well with that. Do you have any questions on the Catalyst approach? The next slide, I wanted to highlight formulating a plan for behavior expectations. So one of the items on our strategic plan here around behaviors and expectations is an area that myself, Mr. Lidke, Dean of Students, and actually our school resource officer have been working pretty diligently on. We've been trying to determine, what are those areas that we need more training, like the Catalyst approach, for example. What kind of things do we need to be tracking, and what are some tools that we already have in order to track those more effectively and efficiently. And so we've had some conversations and done some work. We're starting a book study. And just looking at moving forward, how can we continue to address behaviors in the classroom so that they don't escalate to larger concerns? How do we equip and provide opportunities for our staff to address those things and repair those relationships that are damaged right away? And some of that work has been around restorative practice training. Again, some books on relationships and impact on our students academically. And then, again, we're going to be looking at how to track those things, referrals, and the like a little bit more intently. Mr. Birding has also been a part of that conversation on the tech side. And I think we've got some exciting work ahead of us, and I'm really encouraged to see the work that everybody's doing, because I know it's going to make a positive impact, not just on our students, but on our staff. As I think in the past, they felt a little bit lost in the shuffle on all of this. So hopefully getting everybody on the same page and working together. Any questions on that?
Okay, so the Bulldog Academy is our new Bridges program. It's bridges between preschool and kindergarten. It is for kindergarten age students, so it's been a great program for us. Just basically, it covers the kindergarten standards at a slower pace. It won't cover all of them, but we do cover most of the kindergarten standards at that slower pace. And it has a lot more hands-on activities than what a traditional kindergarten has. Tori Workman, our teacher, meeting with her, talking through some stuff with her, she can definitely see a big change, or see the difference in the students that should be in the program compared to students that aren't traditional. She thinks this is just a great program, as do I, and we're really seeing some great stuff come out of these students. And then one thing we're working on is looking for that true assessment we can use to make sure that we're making the right choice for, and helping make the right choice for these students to go on to traditional kindergarten or on to first grade in the future. So, any questions about Bulldog Academy?
How many students you currently have? The next area that we looked or wanted to focus on in this area was removing any barriers that there would be to transportation to attending our Kids Corner preschool program. And so along with we contract with Palmer to do specific bus routes for the preschool, the AM and PM sessions, but we also have worked with them now to allow the students to ride the route buses if parents are comfortable doing that. And so we do have a few that have decided to do that, and we do so in as safe manner as possible. We give them colored tags to get on the right color bus, and the bus drivers are really good about making sure that they keep the little ones safe as well. So, any questions?
The next item in unique learning opportunities is that pre-K through 8 Fast Bridge implementation and teacher training. If you're a parent that has or has had a kid in our elementary, you know what Fast Bridge testing is and what those numbers do. They help our kids and our staff know where they're at according to the standards, and then they can develop interventions specifically targeted for those students that might need them. This past year, we've implemented that at the 7th and 8th grade level as well. And so we're able to look at our fluency and our math scores and target those things for our 7th and 8th graders. We had a fall and winter testing now. And I will tell you that after the winter testing, our numbers are looking good. We're already seeing growth. And so one thing that we did notice early this year with our fall testing was that fluency, our numbers in fluency, we had a number of students that were quite low. So that just told us that we needed to have, instead of, individualized interventions, maybe a class-wide intervention for our 7th graders. So we established that. Unfortunately, it was right as we were moving to distance learning. But like I said, our numbers would indicate that that intervention did help in some way. So that's been a good thing, and our teacher training is ongoing with that. Steph Watts has been really helpful to work with our SPED teacher, our 2 ELA teachers, and one of our math teachers that has been doing FAST with our 7th and 8th graders. And we'll continue to do that. We'll do one more in the spring, and then hopefully moving forward every year from now on for our 7th and 8th grade, and see if we need to continue to provide that option for our junior high. Any questions?
Do you ever envision it being higher than 8th grade, doing anything in 9th through 12th at all?
I'm not sure. If I remember correctly, I think it only goes up through 8th grade.
Okay.
But there are other options that you could look at to be more targeted and get progress monitoring results throughout the school year.
Okay.
I know Mr. Hanson talked about the class-wide interventions at 7th grade, but in the elementary, we use the FAST also. And we have used that data and had a few class-wide interventions at the elementary level also.
An update on standards-based report cards. That's been out in elementary now for quarter 1 and quarter 2. And a big focus now for the second half of the year is working to build capacity for parents on understanding more about standards-based grading and about the report card, how to read it, and what the information means. So one way that we're working on that is monthly small bits of information going out to parents just so they can get a little understanding and small pieces to understand it through Seesaw and social media. And our teachers are continuing to work on furthering their success criteria development and also on building assessments. So that's an ongoing process. Other questions about standards-based reporting?
I already asked your mind, so.
Well, then we can talk about the curriculum review cycle. So this is something that we're overhauling this year and kind of refocusing and restarting with, and we're changing over to a 4-phase process. So that includes analyzing existing curriculum and instruction materials, reviewing what materials could potentially be purchased, and then there's implementation phase and a monitoring and adjusting phase. And the current work with that is developing a curriculum materials evaluation tool that's aligned to the graduate profile. So when teachers look at materials from vendors, they can see if it aligns with our vision and goals. And so we have our ELA department who will be piloting that starting on the 15th. Questions about curriculum review?
Okay, so unique learning opportunities Horizon. Kindergarten readiness assessment tool. We don't currently use a parent-aware approved assessment tool for kindergarten readiness. These are identified, or we noticed this when we were starting to work on our strategic plan. So now we're researching and we'll soon be piloting and selecting a parent-aware assessment tool. We've been in consultation with MDE and our pre-K and kindergarten teams. They've walked us through the 4 assessments they recommend. That would be at the state level, so that's been a wonderful tool for us to use.
And as we have kind of been looking through those assessments, we have already thought about a lot of the pros and cons to them. A number of them, or a couple of them, are pretty lengthy, and so we have to think about our program and the fact that we have a 2-day program and a 3-day program, and kind of pick something that we're going to be able to work with the shorter program days. And so some are more user-friendly than others, and so the preschool and kindergarten teachers, along with Mr. Erler and I, have requested more information on 2 of them. And so we will meet as a team with the publisher of one of them next week, and then hopefully soon with the publisher of another one. And they'll walk us through them, and hopefully we will come up with one soon. So we can still try to pilot it this year, and then implement it full next year.
When you say it's a parent assessment tool, is that the parents will, you'll give it to them to?
Parent Aware is a certification we have, and through our Kids Corner and wraparound program. So any assessments we use, they have to meet both MDE standards and Parent Aware standards. So there's only 4 that do that. So that's why we have to make sure they're Parent Aware and MDE. So it's been very helpful using, talking with MDE about which ones are the kindergarten entry profile assessments that meet Parent Aware also. So that's the direction we went.
So you don't give the parents stuff
No.
throughout the year for their kids to be aware of what goals they have to meet and stuff to be ready for kindergarten?
That's what we're still waiting to
that's-
hear from.
Okay.
As we talk more with the publishers on how we give the assessment, when we give the assessment, that's all the stuff we'll learn about.
Got it.
The nice part about these assessments are they're not just academic. They assess the whole child, so it's not only the academic part, but it's also the social emotional part. Are they ready to move on to kindergarten, is Bulldog Academy a better option for them? And hopefully that will help drive some of our decisions.
Okay.
So one of the areas within unique learning experiences that we're focusing on is making sure that the technology tools that we use are right for the job. So with that in mind, Claudia and myself, we've been looking at the EEE framework, which is Enhance, Engage, and Extend, to make sure that if we're using technology in our classroom, that we're doing one of those 3 things. And we are able to assess how well we're using those things in meeting the academic standards. So JWP has partnered with South Central Service Co-op to get a tool called Catch On, which allows me to collect data and Claudia to collect data on what different technology platforms are being used on our devices. At this time, we are looking for engagements on both staff and student devices to see how often staff are going to a particular tool, how often students are going to a particular tool, how much time they're spending on that. And then within that platform, we will be putting in the number of licenses we have, where it's coming from in the budget, how much it costs per user or per site, and then combining that information with the EEE framework, and we're in the development of a rubric for that, to decide if we're getting a good return on investment for different technology tools that we pay for. And then looking at whether tools that we don't pay for are beneficial as well, and if whether or not they're being used supplementary or if they tie directly in with core curriculum. Any questions?
Empower and all accomplishment. Move This World is our social emotional curriculum that we adopted this year. It's videos that the kids watch with their teachers. They have discussions. There's one for right away in the morning, and then one again at the end of the day. There's 5 main areas that they cover: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, decision-making, and relationship skills. And it builds off from each of those. This program's used kindergarten through 12th grade, and then also they use it in our SAC program. So when the kids come in for SAC after school, they go through a video and talk about different things, just to keep everybody on the same page. It's really been a great program for us. There's always the positives, negatives, so we'll reevaluate at the end of this year and see how far we, if this is the right fit for us, or if we need to start looking into a different program. With this program, we require the teachers to use it at least 3 times a week. So we push them to use it 5, but the expectation is at least 3 times a week with their students. Any questions about Move This World?
Does it seem like the elementary kids like it, but maybe not the older kids so much? I was kind of curious if that
It
would.
seems to be hit or miss on the group of kids. So I would say, if anything, that maybe that younger elementary would be where I would hear the most. And the kids don't seem very interested in it. And the one we had previously, they seemed to like better. So we're going to continue to try it and see if, as they progress through it, if the kids start to like it more or not.
What did we have previously?
Second step.
Okay.
That
So-
one's only K through 8.
Oh,
This
okay.
one's K-12, so.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if like the high school kids would be on board with it and stuff or not, and figured it would take time over the years for them to get comfortable with it, but
Yeah, I would say there, like Mr. Erler said, there's groups that push back a little bit more than others, just naturally. So we've seen some of that, but I think the biggest part of this program, or any kind of SEL program, is that it gives kids, the vocabulary and language to be able to talk and express what's going on. And, those sorts of things don't happen unless you have something in place in order to address those. And so that's where we find ourselves in a mental health kind of crisis like we are right now. If we're not having these things addressed in the classroom, we're not talking about it, and we're not supporting our kids, then that's where we end up. So this is definitely, there's pieces in this program that address those things.
okay.
Quite
So
well.
it is beneficial that you're noticing so far, that you think?
Yeah, and I would say
Okay.
I have a kindergartner here, and she, even at home, she'll say, "You take a deep breath and you name your feelings." And so, these things are,
That's cute.
starting to get into their heads, and they use them at home.
That's why I figured it might take time to get the, the younger kids growing up with it will be used to it, and they're not gonna think it's so stupid then, or whatever, but, yeah.
Right. So then, Willow Sweeney presentations, we've had Willow for a couple years now. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to see her. She's a trainer from Top 20. She's actually the co-founder of it. A very motivational speaker, former teacher, just an all-around awesome person. She, like I said, she spoke with us last school year, then again, beginning of this school year virtually, and during workshop days that we have. She talks about a number of different topics. We talked about the line, below the line, framing conversations, not getting caught in the tornadoes, breaking points and burnout, balance between work and life, and in order to give 100%, you need to find that balance. She's just been wonderful for us over the past 2 years. I would look that we'll continue to use top 20 services in the future. There's 19 different topics that they talk about, and we've brushed on 2 of them maybe. So this is something we'll continue to use. This is also something that continues to come up in our staff, all of our staff meetings and everything, as we try to refer back to things that Willow has taught us. So it's always coming back to the different things that we've learned from Willow, whether it's giving grace or taking on a challenge as an opportunity, and just looking at the positive as much as we can. Any questions about Willow Sweeney and top 20? And like I said, the mental health on every staff presentation, Kurt does a great job with that, bringing everybody up to speed. We start with that, just making sure that we're all taking care of ourselves in order for us to be able to take care of the students and guide the students the way we need to.
All right, I've got these next 2 slides. I'll highlight some of the changes that we've made in our 7th and 8th grade schedule this past year. If you remember the conversation last year about physical education and health being one of those areas where they saw, I think, somewhere around 7,000 minutes in elementary, and then all of a sudden down to like 12 or 1,400 in Phi Ed. And so we felt like that was something that we needed to address. We know that when kids are more active physically, their brains are more active as well. And so I think that's been a good transition for our kids to get more active throughout as many days as possible, as much as they can. The Jwp District Brochure, Mr. Stumpf and myself worked pretty closely on that, making sure that our community, our families are aware of what's going on in our high school and what we all offer. And that's just kind of a quick 1-pager that can be available for anybody at any point. That's been very helpful. Our physics by inquiry class, that's a new concurrent elective where students can gain college credit in this class. We've got a few of those courses. On the next slide, we'll talk about maybe some more options. And so I'll jump to that, but we've got our physics by inquiry class that we just added, and we're also looking at adding one in our ELA department, as one of our ELA teachers has her master's degree in some of the areas of courses that she teaches. And so that seems to align quite well, and we're going to look at some options there. And some of these courses, like physics by inquiry, are offered through the U of M, and some are offered through our MnSCU local colleges and technical schools as well. We hope to kind of shift maybe a little bit more and adding more options into that area so that those credits are more transferable for our students after they graduate. We continue to look at our 7th and 8th grade schedules and highlight areas that maybe integrate more into the classroom rather than an isolated elective. And sometimes these things are choices, and sometimes they're just given to students. So we're trying to figure out what makes the most sense. Claudia and I have actually been working together pretty well over the past couple weeks to talk about next year and what our 7th and 8th grade courses look like, instead of just filling schedules and time. What are things that our kids actually need, and what are the ways that we can utilize these things together? And then Mr. Lidke has a plan to meet with students not in an activity or sport this school year, as just kind of a survey to see where we're at with kids actively engaged in their school experience beyond the classroom. It's another area that we know that when students are more actively engaged outside of school, they're more actively engaged in school, and you can see the research on that, along with developing relationships with other trusting adults and the impact that has on their academic achievement as well. So those are all things that are on our horizon, and we're already kind of dabbling in and figuring out how to move forward on those areas. Any questions on either of those two slides? And I try to rush through because I know we're over time.
The JWP brochure, where is that? Is that like a handout that people can take, or is that an online thing?
I'll address it when I get up there.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful. Thank you all for everything that you do.
Real quick, the JWP brochure, I think you may have seen a draft of it, but that's going to be included in our newsletter and in some job postings that if we do have some that come up, and also to some families that are interested in JWP. There's a high school section, there's actually an elementary section that Jeremy worked on, as well as a community ed section that Andrea worked on, and there's a fourth one. There's a district-wide one, just covers all, some highlights that flow throughout our district. So as I was sitting back, of course, I'm proud of the work that we've done, and I also think most of that was done during COVID times, which are pretty stressful to begin with. So we do have a really good staff here, and is led by a really good administration team, so thank you.
I was just gonna say with the brochure, if you wanted to, we could like set some up at the bowling alley or something, you know.
Yep.
We do get people from Wasika that come in and bowl and stuff, and it might be good to have stuff like that sitting out in some of the businesses that, you know.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Any questions, comments on that? No. Thank you for everything on that. 9B, approve achievement and integration budget.
I'm going to introduce this, and Mr. Hansen's going to say one thing about how this impacts kids. But again, through the state of Minnesota, we do receive achievement and integration dollars, and you can see, according to the budget, it's a little over 20,000. And a lot of that is dedicated to a reading specialist who supports students who come from low-income families, as identified as free and reduced. But we also do have a portion of the budget. I know you only see $500 in there because during COVID, we weren't sure if we're actually going to have it or not. But we have dedicated other funding to a new program to enhance student experiences called Story Arc. And I will let Mr. Hansen give you a quick overview of that program.
Sure. So early this fall, another opportunity came our way to utilize this achievement and integration group that we're a part of and actually expand to a couple other districts. So ourselves, Stillwater, Hastings, Mankato, and St. Peter all have students that are involved in this group called Story Arc. And essentially it's a collaborative and connections-based activity where our students are meeting every Friday afternoon. They actually supplied each student with their own personal iPad so that they could do this program together. And it's about each student kind of telling their story, getting connected with other students in other districts, and getting to know one another. So through that diversity that they're connecting with in these other districts, they're working together collaboratively in groups to find ways to tell their unique stories. And that could be through podcasting, filmmaking, or literature. We've got 2 students that were identified, talked to our ELA department, and identified 2 students that would probably find this, interesting and engaging and enriching for them. And so they are enjoying it. I catch up with them as often as I can if I see them in the hall or otherwise. And again, they're meeting every Friday afternoon with these group of students, and they're working on putting together either a podcast, a film of some sort, or some writing. And that could be like on a blog, or I know they've got blogs that they post to and other things. And so at the end of the school year, they have kind of a culminating project that they will be able to share. They're also working with former students as kind of pre-professionals as well as professionals in these areas that Story Arc has found and contracted with to come in and help train those students. So it's a pretty unique opportunity, and I think it sounds like this is going to continue to grow and expand. And I'm not sure if we're able to add more students, but it's looking like this is something that will continue right alongside of our Achievement and Integration group, who we're still waiting to try to find another time for that group to meet like we did last year. This COVID year has wreaked havoc on that. Trying to get multiple schools together to meet doesn't really happen so easily. And then with Mankato going, shifting their dates last week, we were supposed to have one tomorrow, but they need this time for prep work right now. So hopefully coming up in March, we're able to get our original group back together along with some new 10th graders.
Nice.
So this budget you did approve 2 years ago, I do have it as an action agenda item now to approve for this coming
Approve again.
school year.
Okay. Any further questions before we go to a motion? All right, if not, do we have a motion to approve the achievement and integration budget?
So moved.
That's Tim Johnson. Do we have a second? That's Tim Burke. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. And then we have a motion to approve, thanks, Grant. The resolution accepting donations. I'll run through the donations. We've got the Miller family, $85.50 for FFA. Waseca County Farm Bureau, $100 for FFA. Caitlin Olchenbruns, $150 for FFA. And Anonymous, $32.50 Kids Corner Tuition Grant. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution accepting donations with many thanks?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution accepting donations with many thanks.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Scott Kaminsky. And this is a roll call, so Wendy? Yes.
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 All right. Motion passes 6-0. Upcoming meetings, March 1st, 2021, study session, and then March 15th, the regular meeting followed by activities committee meeting. And we are adjourned at